So, Stock Talk, you talked about
It's had a nice decent pullback into the 20 SMA. You have the 50 down below, the 200 way down there. So it's still super extended on the daily chart, but it has had a good risk to reward pullback in the grand scheme of things here. So right now we have had the indices make a really big move off of the lows. Basically, the Qs, the SPY, and the IWM are still negative, but the SPY is holding up best. NVIDIA is down 3% heading into earnings. SMCI is down 6.8%. The whole semiconductor space is down across the board. For those that were on the live stream yesterday with us, we took natural gas plays. We even shorted KOLD. Full disclosure, I did close that position. Remember, we took those 172 short on KOLD. Look at nat gas. Huge rip on nat gas. Big fall on KOLD. We also banked tremendously on Boyle, so congrats if you're able to take that with us. It's been a pretty terrific trading session for the natural gas bulls today. So really epic trading session. Just look at this daily chart of nat gas, still trading at the low range of this parallel channel. Probably has a lot more legs to this run. Mentioned some stocks like AR. Look at that move on AR. Huge gap up. EQT. Massive monster move to the high side. Look at that. Wow. What an epic rally in EQT. And you look at LNG. I actually haven't checked this one today. Another sky high move into the EMA 113. So very impressive. Let's watch the SPY here late into the close. You're getting a very strong candle, few candles to the upside. Basically, SPY has broken out of this little wedge pattern. You're above the head and shoulders that triggered, so that's a bullish reversal to the upside. It makes me think NVIDIA wants to bounce. Just give me a second to answer some questions. I'm just getting my pulse on this market. Magnuson, do you think it's up or maybe a retest on nat gas? Well, I think it's going to go up. My year-end target is between $3.50 to $4 sometime by the end of the year. But you could always double bottom retest, but it's so oversold. I mean, even at these levels, it's still depressed with the recent rally. So it's been a stellar rally. Again, we took massive profits on nat gas. You're seeing the markets have a pretty tremendous boost to the upside here. All indices are still negative, except they're trying to close the SPY positive. If the SPY rallies another 24 cents, it will be positive on the trading session after being completely negative. Again, we took a huge win on KOLD short, huge win on Boyle position, nice win on SMCI calls earlier. Palo Alto at these levels looks interesting. Walmart's continue to pay us pretty much all throughout the day. But again, since NVIDIA's pulled back into earnings here, there's always a chance that they could try to push it back up. What's interesting is the sell-off today is not that heavy. I mean, you're only trading about 49.8 million shares. You're into the 20 moving average, so it could bounce here. I mean, it's still extended, but it could definitely bounce here and retest a high. Just as they get people bared up, chasing the short, they could rip it up. But big reversal in Apple, Microsoft, Google, Meta. Everything has reversed to the high side here. And we are seeing the markets trying to push up. But we'll be taking you through the NVIDIA earnings as we progress. It's going to be, the implied move is about a plus 10%, minus 10% move. So it's fairly decently sized, the move. Just want to see some other things here. So in the S&P, the biggest movers are some of those natural gas stocks. EQT, Coterra. Then you have Albemarle, Marley, lithium. Obviously, some of the biggest losers are Palo Alto, Pan W getting absolutely demolished. It's pretty impressive, actually. It's very, very impressive to see Palo Alto. Hey, boss. Yeah, good job, Anthony. Good job there. We crushed it on Boyle. We even crushed it on KOLD. I mean, I called out that day trade. Remember I said I was holding that day trade short on KOLD overnight? We had it at that 172 zone. Boom. Look at that. Day trade position. So it was a lot heavier. Boyle. We crushed it on Boyle. Even UNG. UNG is absolutely ripping when we added at the lows yesterday with members. So good to see natural gas bulls finally starting to celebrate. But all eyes will be on NVIDIA here. All eyes will be on NVIDIA. It's been a fantastic day for us. Even looking at some of the sentiment in the market, crypto stocks getting hit pretty hard. Bitcoin's down 2.5%. So still a lot of weakness in the tape today. You have had the S&P just turn green. So the S&P just turned green on the session. I'm just going to remove some of these moving averages because it makes the chart look extra messy. So you're blasting through the EMA 113 on the 10-minute chart. I think where the S&P wants to retrace to is this upsloping zone over here. Call it 497.58. It looks like we're getting a nice squeeze into the end of the close. It's mega cap strength, just absolutely ripping. You have the price on NVIDIA. What's the price on NVIDIA? Take a look at that gap down on Pan W. Trading down on the session, 28.28%. Coming up into some big support, but what a monster drop. The stock was one of the stocks leading to all-time highs. Imagine NVIDIA has a gap down of some sort of epic proportion. They're looking like very similar charts, Pan W and NVIDIA. Kind of consolidating at the highs. NVIDIA's also really consolidating at the highs, really testing the first level of intermediate support here. But SPY, just a monster move. If you're interested, 589, that's your buy point on NVIDIA. Let's take a look at the 589 level on the daily chart. So 589 is really around this zone here, your mid-January levels. Yeah, I mean, it could bounce there. Let's see. So 589 is just below this top of this channel, just above the 50 MA. Let's throw in a fib retrace zone. $618, 50%. I like this 609 level for a bounce. It's kind of interesting to me. But what a monster move into the close there. Definitely a monster move. So NVIDIA going into this earning is wielding a market cap of about 1.79 trillion. You also have Rio Tinto that reported earnings this morning. After the bell, there's also Synopsys, SMPS. That's going to be interesting. SNPS. Let's just fix this NVIDIA chart. So SNPS has actually almost turned positive in this weak market. Big reversal off of the lows. Probably beat on earnings, but again, this one looks like a big distribution, topping formation. All options are priced for an 11% move. Yep. Full disclosure on NVIDIA, I mean, I told my members as our earnings hedge we took 700 calls, tomorrow's expiry. So we took 700 calls as a little bit of a hedge, and we basically are already up on the position. The fact that NVIDIA has sold off into earnings, I mean, if we factor this daily chart drop from the high, it's about a 9.8% drop. It kind of, with that implied move, I think the max pain would be if we just chop sideways and we stayed in like a 1 or 2% range. That would probably crush a lot of the IV premium. We also have ANSS, TCOM, Nutrien after the bell, some smaller names. Just looking through here. Rivian after the bell, Marathon Oil, Host Hotels, Exact Sciences, ticker EXAS, Mosaic, Wingstop, Etsy, Lucid Group, anybody that trades that ticker, Dutch Bros, Pan American Silver, but really NVIDIA, SNPS are probably going to be the big ones. Excuse me. Let's see how the S&P is doing. So yeah, basically I'm writing as a hedge 700 calls into this earnings report. And I'm looking at so we'll look at S&PS here. We'll watch that on the daily chart session or the 8-hour chart. And we're going to watch NVIDIA. So the markets are closed, but we're going to take you through the NVIDIA earnings. Here we go. Here we go is right. Just like to mark where NVIDIA is closed. Members, if our 700 calls go in the money, I will be securing profits. Again, that's just a hedge. It's not our primary position.
LLMs evolve, and you've got Google now coming up with their Gemini models. They're using their own TPUs, and you've got these open source models being released here. Google just released their open source Gemma model. I can download that and just run that on my Mac. I don't need any NVIDIA data center.
So expectations for the earnings is about a 20.39 billion.
The LLMs or cloud providers, they need to be making money. And I think the cloud providers are certainly making money, but if the ability to monetize at the end, where the
basically that's your 10% implied move.
I can see that eventually trickling down into slower growth in the data center.
10% puts you back near the highs. 10% down puts you back around the 609 level. Let's see what happens. So NVIDIA is getting a slight uptick here. It is getting a slight uptick. Sympathy plays AMD, SMCI, AVGO. Hey Ram, how do you become a member, or do you do trading for me? No, I don't do trading for you. I do have clients that I trade for, but memberships can be found at tradingcapital.ca. But unfortunately, that service is no longer open to the public. I did offer an authorized trading service, but that's no longer an option. So I just have a membership model at tradingcapital.ca. Feel free to check it out. If you have any questions, let me know. But at the moment, we're just waiting on NVIDIA and SMPS. Synopsis expectation estimate is 3.42 per share and then 1.645 in revenue. Right now, NVIDIA is up slightly in the after hours. Again, members, if my call, 700 calls go in the money, I will take profits. I will take profits. SNPS catching a small bid here. Say the first move is the wrong move. SNPS getting a nice push. We'll see if it can continue and make a new high. Basically, to make a new high, it needs to rally about 6.8%. Bitcoin's catching a bid. Earnings should be a good guidance for what? NVIDIA? I think it won't be a horrific guide. I'd be surprised if it was a horrific guide. The only thing that's concerning is that, the demand was around 11-month backlog for the NVIDIA GPUs, and the CEO came out, Jensen came out and said they've managed to narrow that down to about a 3-month backlog. So Typically, backlogs are actually more bullish for a stock. It means the demand is higher and they can't keep up with the demand even though they're running at full capacity. When that backlog decreases by about 7-8 months, that means that, okay, is the demand slowing or have they just expanded their capacity to service more? So it can go either way. The fact that NVIDIA sold off the last 3 sessions makes it interesting. I think it sets it up for that. It could have a two-directional move. I think we could squeeze some shorts and then we could dump, or vice versa. I think we could squeeze some longs, get some capitulation, and then reverse higher. I think we're going to get a big up-down move. I think we're going to get an up and then a down move. That's me personally, but it's just a guess, right? That's why we take a hedge. The backlog will be met by competitors. Yeah, that's a good theory, right? You could see other competitors like AMD, AVGO stealing their thunder, ASML. I mean, the chip market, there's a lot of different variations in the chip, but NVIDIA also said they're trying to go after, a positive for NVIDIA is that they're trying to go after the more high premium chip market, so that would affect AVGO, and that's a sympathy play as well. So we'll see. But at some point, right, you have to expect, okay, the market cap is bigger than Google and Amazon, but doing a fraction of their revenue. How much forward expectation and hype around this AI semiconductors can they price into the stock, right? It's had a magnificent move. You can't deny that. And at some point it will reach almost a peak valuation where investors aren't willing to pay up as much as they have been. But if they come out with, say, like a 25 billion, even if they come out with a beat, you could still reach that scenario where, oh my goodness, if they come out with 25 billion guide or 25 billion beat this go around, the stock would probably pop, but then you run into a scenario where can they beat 25 billion the next quarter? All right. So how much growth can we price into this market? That's the big thing. And how much, and you have to factor in, right? Not all the semiconductors can keep growing at the rate they're growing. It's a big market, but the outsized moves that some of these companies and the valuations are trading at is pretty incredible. And, you have to be bullish on AI. It's a part of our society. It's not going anywhere, but there does come a point of reaching a fundamental valuation and even a technical price that has to obviously see some profit taking and correction. But we'll see. I mean, it's a gamble any which way, right? I don't have a crystal ball. I'm kind of hedged with a call position, a 700 call going into the earnings, and then I have some shorts, some common shares short. And the nice thing is we can sustain, even if it goes up, we can sustain a squeeze to the upside because we have proper allocation. And we've taken a whole host of profits over the last few trading sessions, so it's been magnificent. And again, members, if we get a pop into that 700, I'm looking to exit my calls. The position is sized for a loss. So even if it drops, my common shares will insulate that. And the reason you hedge is because you really don't know which way it's going to go. Everyone says it's going to go this way, going to go that way, but it's purely a gamble, earnings.
They are firing 10% of our employees. Q4 numbers were below estimates. They were reduced once again. Revenue of 1.22. This updated positions are 1.25. Stocks down. This is terrible.
Yeah, I don't think 700 is a good short zone. Don't get me wrong. But it's not that big of a move, right? There could be a scenario where you come up, there's a gap fill up here, which would be a better short if you got a retest, which could definitely happen. But yeah, I mean, I think if you start accumulating and building a core short position, a swing trade at 700, I think you'll eventually profit in the next, say, 6 months or sooner. That's just a little bit of a longer window.
Heavy incentive, heavy discounting, preferred financing, that kind of stuff. Then you look at what's happening in China. You've got deflation there. You've got this crazy sort of race to the bottom. You got 90 brands. A lot of them don't even sell, a few hundred cars a quarter. So you really have, generally as an industry, a lot of people running into this, burning billions of dollars, expecting stunning growth. And here we are now in this high interest environment where you have sort of a race to the bottom on pricing at a time when they were already losing money at luxury car pricing. You've got sort of this race to the bottom on pricing.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Even ICE cars are cutting the prices. I mean, Stellantis, right, has announced price cuts on Jeep. Ford has announced price cuts, as you mentioned, on the Lightning, but even on ICE vehicles. I went to
Numbers on the board, yeah.
dealership in Boca Raton and went to an Acura and a Honda dealership to just look at prices, and they basically said that cars that didn't have in stock.
So yeah, we're just waiting on NVIDIA. We're waiting on SMPS here. SMPS has made a little bit of an after hours move to the upside. Right now, semis are actually up in the after hours slightly here. You have NVIDIA 0.3%. Apple's down. Microsoft's down. Sympathy plays, Micron, SMPS, AVGO, SMCI, of course. SMCI is interesting too because that's had a really big sell-off. So, I mean, that one I would like on the long side. That's kind of a high-risk trade, but even the 800 calls on SMCI, you can have a couple days out, even a week out. Give yourself a little more time. Looks kind of interesting. Does look kind of interesting from my point of view. We played SMCI this in our members chat today, and we banked tremendously on SMCI. It was a nice win. Our calls went deep in the money there. 0 DTE play. Those are always so juiced, and SMCI moves so quickly at times. 589 long, 802 short. Yeah, that sounds solid. Let's mark your 589 level down here.
And they had to cut prices quite a bit to achieve that 1.8 million guidance. So I think probably that was the reason for not issuing guidance, although the market reacted.
802 short. So 802 short implies another 18% move to the upside. That's pretty big.
To just deliver lower volume growth and not have to worry about margins as much.
Absolutely, and it looks like Elon's in the audience, so shout out to Elon listening into our naive auto discussion before NVIDIA.
I don't see Adrian down there.
No, Elon.
No, okay.
No.
I think that was the
big inside. It must be encouraging now. Sorry.
Isn't there a risk with Lucid and Rivian, given how their stocks have done and the financial result? If you're going to go buy a car, less of a risk, I think, on the legacy automakers. But for Rivian and Lucid, isn't there a risk that they go out of business and you end up with your warranties worthless and
next 2 years, no. But they do have some targets.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would buy it for that reason that Josh brought up exactly. You want to get stuff. This company does not look long for this world.
The Saudis, I guess, are they going to just end up owning this entire company? I mean, I think they
already have
65 and more dilution, more ownership, right? Because they were the biggest buyers too over the last 2 years. When even public was back, so it has gone up, and I don't see anyone else that's Peruvian. I don't think so. They have enough capital when it comes down to without really anything else. Houston has around 18 months of runway on net cash basis, but they can go out and raise some debt. That would be the next. I mean, the market they had raised debt at maybe 12 years. Yeah. What else would they do with the value? They are down 90 bucks. I would be happy if I was able to.
SMCI still reminds you of GME? Yeah, it really does. Yeah, that would have been a great trade, shorting GME. What's interesting is, I mean, when you compare SMCI to GME, it hit a 97 RSI. There's no other stock in history that hit a 97 RSI. That was plastered. And then on the day that came out, the 97 RSI, it basically had that epic reversal candle to the downside. So, the only other stock that hit 97 RSI was GME. So this actually went higher than the GME squeeze. Now, obviously, GME and SMCI are two completely different companies, so it's you have to take that with a grain of salt. I think SMCI is a much better company than GameStop, but nonetheless, very, very similar metrics in terms of how high it's squeezed, how quickly, how overbought, the hype around it, the sentiment. It's been interesting, that's for sure. I'd probably find it interesting to pick up SMCI maybe around 650. Could be a trade there.
Should we do a quick higher or lower?
So we're just patiently waiting. SMCI, sorry, NVIDIA getting a nice little push here. So NVIDIA is getting a nice push, guys. $22.1 billion, coming in higher than expectations. Revenue's a beat. Big beat on NVIDIA. Coming down now, though. So initial up move, now a down move. Forward guidance is 24 billion. 24 billion. We are falling nicely. First support coming up is your 382 fib. There could be a small bounce there. Hitting the EMA 113 on the 4-hour chart. That will be some support as well. You can see NVIDIA falling here in the after hours. Not that big of a move. It's kind of just eating up some premium on both sides. Had an up move, had a down move. Still down slightly, but nothing crazy. I'm just scrolling through multiple time frames just to use these moving averages. Still a little bit more weakness creeping in. SMCI is also falling. You have Bitcoin reversing as well. Roar. Always have dry powder. Yeah, dry powder is the most important. You're absolutely right. Dry powder is the most important. 589, here you come. Still a ways away. They're just chopping people up on both sides right now. You are seeing some weakness, probably shaking some people out. What was interesting is they sold off NVIDIA today ahead of earnings, and the volume wasn't really that heavy. It was not really that heavy, the volume. Have a support level there. That's the 50. So NVIDIA is coming right back up now. Nice bounce off of that EMA.
Guys, there's NVIDIA saying Gen AI has in full quote, there's a slight opportunity to leverage Gen AI as the tipping point demand is surging worldwide across companies, industries, and nations.
But the headline isn't that accurate if you read the statement. He had to pump. He saw the stock exactly 4%, and he goes, "We're at the tipping point. It's going to be explosive."
No one's voiced that or buyback. What is the
If it goes down, they're going to say, "Oh, keep it there."
So it was a good earnings report from NVIDIA. So far, the stock reaction is fairly muted. That's kind of what I said ahead of time. I like 800 calls on SMCI. 800 calls on SMCI look pretty nice. Again, you kind of get these two reactions. Right now, it's up 1% in the after hours. Tesla's down 1.32. Apple's down. Microsoft's down. AMD's still negative. SMCI slightly negative. And this is the thing. I mean, there's so much hype around it on the actual earnings reaction, and it has a small reaction. Obviously, it could still move higher or lower. But there's been so much hype around it that 10% premium doesn't look to be coming into play yet. Obviously, the call can change things. But they often keep it range bound, and then the bigger directional move happens later in the week. We have a whole host of economic data tomorrow that's going to influence yields, influence the dollar, influence the whole market. A magnificent amount of data. We saw when the Fed minutes came out today, around that 1 o'clock time frame, the markets ended up dumping and then rallying after. Yields in the dollar spiked off of the Fed minutes, which means that the market is still pricing in or starting to see that there's potentially a more hawkish Fed that needs to be priced in. But at the moment, indices probably can trade and chop in a range tomorrow. As long as NVIDIA stays in this range, it won't affect the markets too much. Long time frame on SMCI calls? No, just a trade. A week out. It could probably hit it tomorrow. It could even hit it today in the after hours. But I'd look for maybe 1 day out or a couple days out, depending on how much risk you're worth. Size for loss, personally speaking. I just went for 2 DTEs myself as a hedge. Basically, takes us to Friday. Here comes SMCI, guys. AMD's flipped green. NVIDIA's up 1.8. SMCI's up 0.9. 1% now. Tesla's still negative. Fairly muted so far.
And it's really, it's impossible to forecast, basis points in the first market going forward. It's not realistic to do that.
Yep, exactly. Not only is it not realistic.
NVIDIA is getting a nice push. Good to see everyone on. I added an option to a watch list, AMD 150 put for 223. So a couple days, so that's Friday. 150 put. Yeah, I mean that could play out. It's it's a little tough right now. You're seeing NVIDIA obviously react positively, but the earnings can change it. I would probably give yourself maybe a little bit more time on the clock, especially if this stays positive. You know, if that stays positive, it could definitely keep. All right, guys, members, secure your profits on those 700 calls. All right, so I just secured my 700 call profit. Boom, that's beautiful. That is clinical. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful little hedge there. NVIDIA is now 5.41%, so Q's S&P getting a nice big bid to the high side. Yep, those 700 calls went in the money. All right, here we go. 714. We're into this red bar resistance now. This is the first big level for NVIDIA. It's the first big level for NVIDIA. Imagine we do a full round trip back down on the earnings call. That would be pretty epic, I think. Huge push on SMCI. NVIDIA is still squeezing. Huge calls. Those calls are deep in the money. Those calls are deep in the money. Would love to see 802. I don't think 802 is going to happen, to be honest. Not with the 22 billion. If you got 25 or 26, I think it would. But so SMCI is coming up into its gap fill, which sits at around 803. Those 800 calls are almost in the money. Please secure profits. Once they push, there you go. They're in the money. Secure those $800 calls on SMCI. Thank you, thank you. Nice little trade there. That's a beautiful little one. We are still squeezing higher on SMCI. NVIDIA is still trying to hang on and push up. So we secured our 700 calls. They went deep in the money. Our $800 calls on SMCI went in the money. Profits have been secured. We're getting a little bit stretched here in the after hours. I think some pullbacks could be in for SMCI. I think we could pull back maybe to 772 here. Retest. NVIDIA is still holding firm. Could see NVIDIA retesting this zone here. This previous 696, just under 700 zone. But nice wins. Do you have more calls on NVIDIA versus puts? And how do you hedge? So Ram, I called out my hedge with my members. I took $700 calls on NVIDIA. We took them all the way down here today at around the 666 zone. Rode them up in the money. We also took $800 calls on SMCI on the live stream here. Closed them both. I think we've reached kind of the max move for today on these names. Unless Jensen comes out and says, they're releasing some sort of a new chip. We're taking AVGOs, entering the more luxury chip market, more advanced chip market. But we hedged with calls. So this is what it's all about, right? In position management trading, you have your core positions, and then you take your hedges based off of what you need some hedging. Are you on the call? Are you on the short side? Or are you on the long side? And then I use my options to hedge me. And those options, typically with the alpha that they provide, especially if they're 1 DTE, in this case it was 1 DTE on NVIDIA, 1 DTE on SMCI, you become hedged. So SMCI is up about 7.6, NVIDIA is up about 6.1, Qs are up 0.5%, SPY is up 0.3, SOX is up 1.7. You can become a member. You just have to visit my website, tradingcapital.ca, and then you can put in your email, all your information, and subscribe to the monthly or the yearly. The yearly's better. You invest a little bit more upfront to save on the long-term price. Works out to about a 50% discount. You're seeing NVIDIA starting to come in just a little bit. They might buy out AMD. Oof. That would crush the stock in the near term. I don't even know if they would be allowed to. That might be a deal that gets blocked. That would be a pretty crazy buy. Not going to lie, but it could happen, but I just don't see it yet. That might be something that gets blocked. But what a company that would be. Then you probably could see NVIDIA really take a monopoly on the chip market. AMD at $5. What about AMD at $5? Anthony?
sovereign cloud infrastructure over the last quarter, maybe 2 quarters here, but it feels like a much more recent story. So I wonder if, as we get to that point where Microsoft, Google, etc.,
When I traded it, oh yeah, that's crazy. AMD at $5, boom. That is wild.
They have to. You're already double revenue at 96 million next year. You're going to need new nation states, new buyers, and I believe that they will see new buyers. But funny anecdote before the call starts.
So the call will be starting soon.
The February 23rd.
The call will be starting soon.
Traded like 40,000 times. Imagine
Does anyone recall what happened last time on the call?
Because the stock, even though it's up like 70%, gross margin.
Oh, that's SMCI.
Unless he says to the moon on the call, I doubt we're going to get to 1300. Dude, something like 40,000 call, which is a big premium, right? And 1300 for this Friday.
So you expected that under the moon, almost.
The people are nuts. And it's not, hopefully it was a covered call. I don't know, but it just seemed ridiculous.
No, even one market maker would take that. 40,000.
40,000 contracts.
How much was it? Up in each?
No. I don't think they're.
That would make NVIDIA the world's most valuable company if that was to happen.
It's just funny how
You could actually sell entirely behind Microsoft.
All right, so NVIDIA's up 5.7, SMCI is up 6.77, but they're fading just a little bit here, ever so slightly. We'll see if it makes a full round trip. So we had that up move, then a down move, then a big up move. Will they grab all the premium and take it right back down? That's the big question. The call will be starting soon, momentarily.
Yes. 10 minutes to the call. We do have to What do you know? Is he here?
Natural gas, yeah, I'll discuss that in my video later tonight. Nat gas. We crushed natural gas. Anybody that's actually been watching our videos on our stream has had the ability to crush natural gas. I mean, we took monster profits on Boyle. We took monster profits on KOLD. Just yesterday, I said short KOLD on the live stream, and I was holding a very big size day trade on that position. It wasn't a swing, it was a day trade. So my day trades are always heavier than my swings because I typically am just in and out. But that one I held overnight. Took it live on yesterday's stream. Took Boyle. We took we added to our UNG. So I mean, we've done some pretty monster moves in the accounts today. We've had some beautiful SMCI calls intraday with members. We took what else did we? I think we took profits on our AR. That had a monster move. Those stocks that I mentioned yesterday, AR, EQT. So it's been great. It's been very, very great for members here at Trading Capital. No, I haven't been saying Boyle for weeks. Not Boyle for weeks. I talk about natural gas every day, but my alerts, I haven't been for weeks. Boyle, I actually just opened a position a couple days ago, and then I added a day trade yesterday. But I've been talking about natural gas for so long here, and I said wait until it goes below sub $2. And then we reached, I don't even know what the low was, 160 something, 165 or 155. But a monster move after the close yesterday put us in the money on all of our positions. And we've already trimmed some profits, still holding a core long position on UNG. Very, very strong core long on UNG. All right, so semis are trying to get another push up. Right now, NVIDIA is up 6.24%, so it's lifting the whole market. Tesla's still negative. That's kind of fascinating. Tesla's still negative. Just waiting on the call to occur.
Pretty good versus consensus.
This many consecutive quarters at this scale, it just, I mean, Jensen Wong, you are smart. Hey, Jay, it looks like a lot of them trade at the 1300 spread.
So it appears almost like an inverse head and shoulders here on the intraday hourly chart of SMCI. If you're using this neckline, you have broken it. But kind of implies still a big move to the upside of around 856.
I don't understand those types of trades. You know, for anybody doing them in big size, I guess it's all relative to your portfolio.
Will was mentioned that. Yeah. Thanks, Michael. $9 on TLT going long. We'll see. Yields had a nice little up move today. Short end of the curve outperformed the long end. So believe it or not, when that happens, stocks do have the ability to rally still. When the short end starts to outperform the long end again, it does allow stocks to rally. You really got to get scared once you start to see that long end start to push that yield curve and invert that yield curve. NVIDIA is now up 7.2%, so you can see the momentum still in play for the semiconductors. NVIDIA looks like it's trying to charge to new all-time highs. That would likely squeeze. We are squeezing up 7.7% on NVIDIA. Now, the big question you have to ask yourself is, even though they beat on earnings here and revenue of $22.1 billion, does it still justify them trading above 700 in the 720 range, basically back to the previous all-time highs? Does it justify that? What does everyone think? It will. 802 pounds table. Yeah, I even like double top on NVIDIA. Again, you're into this gap fill now. So this is the big gap that we left open, the bear gap. And you're almost into that zone right now. You're basically trading into it as we speak. So that sits at around 726, give or take. We actually filled it. We actually did fill the gap.
I don't see William my way up here. Maybe that's a me problem though. Neither do I. Maybe we try a quick reset the DX on that one. usually when you get what this house those places which are
I got percentage. Speakers and
aren't you what's the issue
I'm trying. Actually, zero spots.
we need more experience go on
Oh yeah. Who's more experienced than these two?
yeah
Whenever spaces came out, they were doing some stuff. I'm pretty sure I have videos.
Doesn't matter. So, I mean, we've basically seen NVIDIA move up. We're still waiting for the conference call. I am kind of listening to it for it in the background. I'm curious to see and hear some of the questions because it is such a large company. It's kind of boring, the earnings calls, I'm not going to lie, but they are kind of important to just get a sense of the whole broad market. You know, NVIDIA has a lot of reach in the semiconductors, so what Jensen Huang says is going to be probably very important. I agree, Michael. I agree. But that's the thing, stocks can stay much, much more rational. The market can stay stocks can stay higher for a lot longer than we can stay solvent. What's the saying? The market can stay more rational or longer, more rational than you can stay solvent. So that's the dangerous about always shorting, right? Is you have to understand what type of a paradigm shift you're in. Semiconductor shorts have been a tough short, very tough short. I've made money and I've also lost on some individual names. You know, it's been a tough, tough short. Even the ridiculous valuations for some of these companies hasn't been easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's only easy for Anthony.
I took personal offense to comment about needing more experienced co-hosts, knowing Gap was up on stage. I'm here to defend him and fight you. Okay.
yeah are you the one behind those calls on Friday was that you on your phone
I can either confirm or deny any option action by me or my broker. You know that. But congratulations to all of them. Today is once again your day.
the world has
To put in perspective, AMD's forecast, right, for data center GPUs is only 3 billion, right? So compare, AMD, right, to the data center GPU for, just one quarter is 18 billion for NVIDIA. So they have a lot of catching up.
I think interesting part I'm not sure anyone knows what story NVIDIA is. I've asked this question. What's the last time there was a growth story like NVIDIA? Who was it?
Tesla probably 2021.
Yeah.
I don't know the scale that this is happening, going from like $6 billion of revenue to 22. Like it's maybe happening at a smaller scale. This is just another level of the size this company's at.
So who's in the top 5? I agree, Tesla's in there.
I mean, maybe 2000 you go back to the top probably.
Shit, you gotta go back to the tech surge of the early 2000s. But what? I guess the bigger question is what stock.
Yeah. Celsius right now was one of the smallest there was one more I forgot the smallest solar panel company was the Genfest, which is wild for 5 years. Until last year, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm asking it in the context of who has an amazing growth story that's still around today and crushing
Microsoft.
Still squeezing here on the semiconductors. NVIDIA now up 8.7. AMD up 4.3. SMC up a whopping 10.6. So the implied move on SMCI has basically hit. NVIDIA still has a couple more percentage point, about a 1.5% to hit its implied move.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Does the call start? We do have 3 people here.
You are trying to push for a new high. I do see your comment there, Michael. That you're right about the 10-minute RSI. A little bit of a bearish divergence. But at the moment, this is strong. It's having a really, really positive pop right ahead of the earnings call.
price it goes down too. But
Yeah, that makes sense. Part of it.
Almost up 10% now, so NVIDIA is hitting its implied move.
Gross margin that the firm wants to beat on revenue, but maybe there's some.
then otherwise about keep going out about how
It's basically less than 1% away from hitting a new all-time high.
Thanks, Brad.
Have a good night.
Come here, what's up?
Dance, come dance.
Come defend, yeah, come defend you.
I guess Kramer was right. Kramer's
Not my definitely weird.
Kramer's right. Kramer's right. One of the few times. February 20th, 25 p.m. Kramer says, yeah, John isn't anywhere near its peak. And to my credit, I said last night, Kramer actually could be right.
All right, guys, NVIDIA is pushing.
I mean, to be fair, big earnings gap up, but back in the so I mean,
They have their highs though.
I'm not that they're hard to get. I mean, like, yeah, big move, but it just reached the move. Sell off that had in earnings. So, yeah, positive earnings. I mean, great for NVIDIA. They're continuing to keep the party going. But like I said, for me, the real question is when this pricing power narrative actually comes into play. Because from a basic economics perspective, it is easy to say these things early.
Good afternoon. My name's Rob.
All right, the call is starting, guys. The call is starting. Let's see if it can hold this positive momentum and gains. It did briefly hit a double top resistance. Didn't make a new high. Close, very, very close to doing so. Your all-time high price is sitting at right around this pivot zone, 746.07.
With me today from NVIDIA are Jensen Huang, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Colette Kress, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I'd like to remind you that our call is being webcast live on NVIDIA's Investor Relations website. The webcast will be available for replay until the conference call to discuss our financial results for the first quarter of fiscal 2025. The content of today's call is NVIDIA's property. It can be reproduced or transcribed without our prior written consent. During this call, we may make forward-looking statements based on current expectations. These are subject to a number of significant risks and uncertainties, and our actual results may differ materially. For a discussion of factors that could affect our future financial results and business, please refer to the disclosure in today's earnings release, our most recent Forms 10-K and 10-Q, and the reports that we may file on Form 8-K with the Securities and Exchange Commission. All our statements are made as of today, February 21st, 2024, based on information currently available to us. Except as required by law, we assume no obligation to update any such statements. During this call, we will discuss non-GAAP financial measures. You can find a reconciliation of these non-GAAP financial measures to GAAP financial measures in our CFO commentary, which is posted on our website. With that, let me turn the call over to Colette.
Thanks, Simona. Q4 was another record quarter. Revenue of $22.1 billion was up 22% sequentially and up 265% year on year, and well above our outlook of $20 billion. For fiscal 2024, revenue was $60.9 billion and up 126% from the prior year. Starting with data center. Data center revenue for the fiscal 2024 year was $47.5 billion, more than tripling from the prior year. The world has reached the tipping point of new computing era. The $1 trillion installed base of data center infrastructure is rapidly transitioning from general purpose to accelerated computing. As more law slows while computing demand continues to skyrocket, companies may accelerate every workload possible to drive future improvement in performance, TCO, and energy efficiency. At the same time, companies have started to build the next generation of modern data centers, what we refer to as AI factories, purpose-built to refine raw data and produce valuable intelligence in the era of generative AI. In the fourth quarter, data center revenue of $18.4 billion was a record, up 27% sequentially and up 409% year-on-year, driven by the NVIDIA Hopper GPU computing platform, along with InfiniBand end-to-end networking. Compute revenue grew more than 5x, and networking revenue tripled from last year. We are delighted that supply of Hopper architecture products is improving. Demand for Hopper remains very strong. We expect our next generation products to be supply constrained as demand far exceeds supply. Fourth quarter data center growth was driven by both training and inference of generative AI and large language models across a broad set of industries, use cases, and regions. The versatility and leading performance of our data center platform enables a high return on investment for many use cases, including AI training and inference, data processing, and a broad range of CUDA accelerated workloads. We estimate in the past year, approximately 40% of data center revenue was for AI inference. Building and deploying AI solutions has reached virtually every industry. Many companies across industries are training and operating their AI models and services at scale. Enterprises across NVIDIA AI infrastructure through cloud providers, including hyperscales, GPU specialized, and private clouds, or on-premise. NVIDIA's computing stack extends seamlessly across cloud and on-premise environments, allowing customers to deploy with a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud strategy. In the fourth quarter, large cloud providers represented more than half of our data center revenue, supporting both internal workloads and external public cloud customers. Microsoft recently noted that more than 50,000 organizations use GitHub Copilot Business to supercharge the productivity of their developers, contributing to GitHub revenue growth accelerating to 40% year-on-year. And Copilot for Microsoft 365 adoption grew faster in its first 2 months than the 2 previous major Microsoft 365 Enterprise Suite releases did. Consumer internet companies have been early adopters of AI and represent one of our largest customer categories. Companies from search to e-commerce, social media, news and video services, and entertainment are using AI for deep learning-based recommendation systems. These AI investments are generating a strong return by improving customer engagement, ad conversation, and click-through rates. Meta, in its latest quarter, cited more accurate predictions and improved advertiser performance as contributing to the significant acceleration in its revenue. In addition, consumer internet companies are investing in generative AI to support content creators, advertisers, and customers through automation tools for content and ad creation, online product descriptions, and AI shopping assistance. Enterprise software companies are applying generative AI to help customers realize productivity gains. Early customers we've partnered with for both training and inference of generative AI are already seeing notable commercial success. ServiceNow's generative AI products in their latest quarter drove their largest ever net new annual contract value contribution of any new product family release. We are working with many other leading AI and enterprise software platforms as well, including Adobe, Databricks, Getty Images, SAP, and Snowflake. The field of foundation large language models is thriving. Anthropic, Google, Inflection, Microsoft, OpenAI, and xAI are leading with continued amazing breakthrough in generative AI. Exciting companies like Adept, AI21, Character AI, Cohere, Mistral, Perplexity, and Runway are building platforms to serve enterprises and creators. New startups are creating LLMs to serve the specific languages, cultures, and customs of the world's many regions. And others are creating foundation models to address entirely different industries, like recursion, pharmaceuticals, and generic biomedicines or biology. These companies are driving demand for NVIDIA AI infrastructure through hyperscale or GPU specialized cloud providers. Just this morning, we announced that we collaborated with Google to optimize its state-of-the-art new Gemma language models to accelerate their inference performance on NVIDIA GPUs in the cloud, data center, and PC. One of the most notable trends over the past year is the significant adoption of AI by enterprises across the industry verticals, such as automotive, healthcare, and financial services. NVIDIA offers multiple application frameworks to help companies adopt AI in vertical domains, such as autonomous driving, drug discovery, low latency machine learning for fraud detection, or robotics, leveraging our full stack accelerated computing platform. We estimate that data center revenue contribution of the automotive vertical through the cloud or on-prem exceeded $1 billion last year. NVIDIA Drive infrastructure solutions include systems and software for the development of autonomous driving, including data ingestion, curation, labeling, and AI training, plus validation through simulation. Almost 80 vehicle manufacturers across global OEMs, new energy vehicles, trucking, robotaxi, and tier 1 suppliers are using NVIDIA's AI infrastructure to train LLMs and other AI models for automated driving and AI cockpit applications. In effect, nearly every automotive company working on AI is working with NVIDIA. As AV algorithms move to video transformers and more cars are equipped with cameras, we expect NVIDIA's automotive data center processing demand to grow significantly. In healthcare, digital biology and generative AI are helping to reinvent drug discovery, surgery, medical imaging, and wearable devices. We have built deep domain expertise in healthcare over the past decade, creating the NVIDIA Clara healthcare platform and NVIDIA BioNeMo, a generative AI service to develop, customize, and deploy AI foundation models for computer-aided drug discovery. BioNeMo features a growing collection of pre-trained biomolecular AI models that can be applied to the end-to-end drug discovery processes. We announced Recursion is making available for the proprietary AI model through BioNeMo for the drug discovery ecosystem. In financial services, customers are using AI for a growing set of use cases, from trading and risk management to customer service and fraud detection. For example, American Express improved fraud detection accuracy by 6% using NVIDIA AI. Shifting to our data center revenue by geography, growth was strong across all regions except for China, where our data center revenue declined significantly following the U.S. government export control regulations imposed in October. Although we have not received licenses from the U.S. government to ship restricted products to China, we have started shipping alternatives that don't require a license for the China market. China represented a mid-single-digit percentage of our data center revenue in Q4, and we expect it to stay in a similar range in the first quarter. In regions outside of the U.S. and China, sovereign AI has become an additional demand driver. Countries around the world are investing in AI infrastructure to support the building of large language models in their own language, on domestic data, and in support of their local research and enterprise ecosystems. From a product perspective, the vast majority of revenue was driven by our Hopper architecture, along with InfiniBand networking. Together, they have emerged as the de facto standard for accelerated computing and AI infrastructure. We are on track to ramp H200 with initial shipments in the second quarter. Demand is strong as H200 nearly doubles the inference performance of H100. Networking exceeded a $13 billion annualized revenue run rate. Our end-to-end networking solutions define modern AI data centers. Our quantum InfiniBand solutions grew more than 5x year on year. NVIDIA Quantum InfiniBand is the standard for the highest performance AI dedicated infrastructures. We are now entering the Ethernet networking space with the launch of our new Spectrum X end-to-end offering, designed for an AI optimized networking for the data center. Spectrum X introduces new technologies over Ethernet that are purpose-built for AI. Technologies incorporated in our Spectrum switch, Bluefield, CPU, and software stack deliver 1.6x higher networking performance for AI processing compared with traditional Ethernet. Leading OEMs, including Dell, HPE, Lenovo, and Supermicro, with their global sales channels, are partnering with us to expand our AI solution to enterprises worldwide. We are on track to ship Spectrum X this quarter. We also made great progress with our software and services offerings, which reached an annualized revenue run rate of $1 billion in Q4. We announced that NVIDIA DGX Cloud will expand its list of partners to include Amazon's AWS, joining Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and Oracle Cloud. DGX Cloud is used for NVIDIA's own AI R&D and custom model development, as well as NVIDIA developers. It brings the CUDA ecosystem to NVIDIA CSP partners. Okay, moving to gaming. Gaming revenue was $2.87 billion, was flat sequentially and up 56% year on year. Better than our outlook on solid consumer demand for NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPUs during the holidays. Fiscal year revenue of $10.45 billion was up 15%. At CES, we announced our GeForce RTX 40 Super Series family of GPUs. Starting at $599, they deliver incredible gaming performance and generative AI capabilities. Sales are off to a great start. NVIDIA AI Tensor cores in the GPUs deliver up to 836 AI TOPS. Perfect for powering AI for gaming, creating, and everyday productivity. The rich software stack we offer with our RTX GPUs further accelerates AI. With our DLSS technology, 7 out of 8 pixels can be AI generated, resulting up to 4x faster ray tracing and better image quality. And with the Tensor RT-LLM for Windows, our open source library that accelerates inference performance for the latest large language models, generative AI can run up to 5x faster on RTX AI PCs. At CES, we also announced a wave of new RTX 40 series AI laptops from every major OEM. These bring high-performance gaming and AI capabilities to a wide range of form factors, including 14-inch and thin and light laptops. With up to 686 TOPS of AI performance, these next-generation AI PCs increase generative AI performance by up to 60x, making them the best-performing AI PC platforms. At CES, we announced NVIDIA Avatar Cloud Engine microservices, which allow developers to integrate state-of-the-art generative AI models into digital avatars. ACE won several Best of CES 2024 awards. NVIDIA has an end-to-end platform for building and deploying generative AI applications for RTX PCs and workstations. This includes libraries, SDKs, tools, and services developers can incorporate into their generative AI workflow. NVIDIA is fueling the next wave of generative AI applications coming to the PC. With over 100 million RTX PCs in the installed base and over 500 AI-enabled PC applications and games, we are on our way. Moving to Pro Visualization. Revenue of $463 million was up 11% sequentially and up 105% year-on-year. Fiscal year revenue of $1.55 billion was up 1%. Sequential growth in the quarter was driven by a rich mix of RTX Ada architecture GPUs continuing to ramp. Enterprises are refreshing their workstations to support generative AI-related workloads such as data preparation, LLM fine-tuning, and retrieval augmented generation. These key industrial verticals driving demand include manufacturing, automotive, and robotics. The automotive industry has also been an early adopter of NVIDIA Omniverse as it seeks to digitalize workflows from design to build, simulate, operate, and experience their factories and cars. At CES, we announced that creative partners and developers, including Brooklyn, WPP, and ZeroLight, are building Omniverse-powered car configurators. Leading automakers like Lotus are adopting the technology to bring new levels of personalization, realism, and interactivity to the car buying experience. Moving to automotive. Revenue was $281 million, up 8% sequentially and down 4% year-on-year. Fiscal year revenue of $1.09 billion was up 21%, crossing the $1 billion mark for the first time on continued adoption of the NVIDIA Drive platform by automakers. NVIDIA Drive Orin is the AI car computer of choice for software-defined AV fleets. Its successor, NVIDIA Drive Thor, designed for vision transformers, offers more AI performance and integrates a wide range of intelligent capabilities into a single AI compute platform, including autonomous driving and parking, driver and passenger monitoring, and AI cockpit functionality, and will be available next year. There were several automotive customer announcements this quarter. Li Auto, Great Wall Motors, Zeekr, the premium EV subsidiary of Geely, and Xiaomi EV all announced new vehicles built on NVIDIA. Moving to the rest of the P&L. GAAP gross margins expanded sequentially to 76% and non-GAAP gross margins to 76.7% on strong data center growth and mix. Our gross margins in Q4 benefited from favorable component costs. Sequentially, GAAP operating expenses were up 6% and non-GAAP operating expenses were up 9%, primarily reflecting higher compute and infrastructure investment and employee growth. In Q4, we returned $2.8 billion to shareholders in the form of share repurchases and cash dividends. During fiscal year 24, we utilized cash of $9.9 billion towards shareholder returns, including $9.5 billion in share repurchases. Let me turn to the outlook for the first quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $24 billion, plus or minus 2%. We expect sequential growth in data center and ProViz, partially offset by seasonal decline in gaming. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 76.3% and 77%, respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. Similar to Q4, Q1 gross margins are benefiting from favorable component costs. Beyond Q1, for the remainder of the year, we expect gross margins to return to the mid-70s% range. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $3.5 billion and $2.5 billion, respectively. Fiscal year 2025 GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to grow in the mid-30% range as we continue to invest in the large opportunities ahead of us. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be an income of approximately $250 million, excluding gains and losses from non-affiliated investments. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items. Further financial details are included in the CFO commentary and other information available on our IR website. In closing, let me highlight some upcoming events for the financial community. We will attend the Morgan Stanley Technology and Media and Telecom Conference in San Francisco on March 4th, and the TD Cowen's 44th Annual Healthcare Conference in Boston on March 5th. And of course, please join us for our annual GTC conference starting Monday, March 18th in San Jose, California. To be held in person for the first time in 5 years, GTC will kick off with Jensen's keynote, and we will host a Q&A session for financial analysts the next day, March 19th. We are now open the call for questions. Operator, would you please poll for questions?
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. As a reminder, please limit yourself to 1 question. Your first question comes from the line of Toshiya Hari from Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the question and congratulations on the really strong results. My question is for Jensen on the data center business. Clearly, you're doing extremely well in the business. I'm curious how your expectations for calendar 24 and 25 have evolved over the past 90 days. And as you answer the question, I was hoping you can touch on, some of the newer buckets within data center, things like software, sovereign AI. I think you've been pretty vocal about how to think about that medium to long term. And recently there was an article about, NVIDIA potentially participating in the ASIC market. Is there any credence to that? And if so, how should we think about you guys playing in that market over the next several years? Thank you.
Thanks, Toshiya. Let's see. There were 3 questions. One more time. First question was...
Sovereign AI.
Well, I guess your expectations for data center, how they've evolved. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Well, we guide 1 quarter at a time, but fundamentally the conditions are excellent for continued growth, calendar 24 to calendar 25 and beyond. And let me tell you why. We're at the beginning of 2 industry-wide transitions, and both of them are industry-wide. The first one is a transition from general to accelerated computing. General purpose computing, as you know, is starting to run out of steam, and you could tell by the CSPs extending, and many data centers, including our own for general purpose computing, extending the depreciation from 4 to 6 years. There's just no reason to update with more CPUs when you can't fundamentally and dramatically enhance its throughput like you used to. And so you have to accelerate everything. This is what NVIDIA has been pioneering for some time. And with accelerated computing, you can dramatically improve your energy efficiency. You can dramatically improve your cost in data processing by 20 to 1. Huge numbers. And of course, the speed. That speed is so incredible that we enabled a second industry-wide transition called generative AI. Generative AI, I'm sure we're going to talk plenty about it during the call. But remember, generative AI is a new application. It is enabling a new way of doing software, new types of software being created. It is a new way of computing. You can't do generative AI on traditional general purpose computing. You have to accelerate it. And the third is it is enabling a whole new industry. And this is something worthwhile to take a step back and look at, and it connects to your last question about sovereign AI. A whole new industry in the sense that for the very first time, a data center is not just about computing data and storing data and serving the employees of a company. We now have a new type of data center that is about AI generation, an AI generation factory. And you've heard me describe it as AI factories. But basically, it takes raw material, which is data, it transforms it with these AI supercomputers that NVIDIA builds, and it turns them into incredibly valuable tokens. These tokens are what people experience on the amazing ChatGPT or Midjourney or search these days are augmented by that. All of your recommender systems are now augmented by that. The hyper personalization that goes along with it. All of these incredible startups in digital biology, generating proteins and generating chemicals, and the list goes on. And so all of these tokens are generated in a very specialized type of data center. And this data center we call AI supercomputers and AI generation factories. We're seeing diversity. One of the other reasons, so at the foundation is that the way it manifests into new markets is in all of the diversity that you're seeing us in. One, the amount of inference that we do is just off the charts now. Almost every single time you interact with ChatGPT, you know that we're inferencing. Every time you use Midjourney, we're inferencing. Every time you see amazing these Sora videos that are being generated, or Runway, the videos that they're editing, Firefly, NVIDIA is doing inferencing. The inference part of our business has grown tremendously. We estimate about 40%. The amount of training is continuing because these models are getting larger and larger. The amount of inference is increasing. But we're also diversifying into new industries. The large CSPs are still continuing to build out. You could see from their CapEx and their discussions. But there's a whole new category called GPU specialized CSPs. They specialize in NVIDIA AI infrastructure, GPU specialized CSPs. You're seeing enterprise software platforms deploying AI. ServiceNow is just a really, really great example. You see Adobe, you see others, SAP and others. You see consumer internet services that are now augmenting all of their services of the past with generative AI, so they can have even more hyper-personalized content to be created. You see us talking about industrial generative AI. Now our industries represent multi-billion-dollar businesses. Auto, health, financial services, in total, our vertical industries are multi-billion-dollar businesses now. And of course, sovereign AI. The reason for sovereign AI has to do with the fact that the language, the knowledge, the history, the culture of each region are different. And they own their own data. They would like to use their data, train it with to create their own digital intelligence, and provision it to harness that raw material themselves. It belongs to them. Each one of the regions around the world, the data belongs to them. The data is most useful to their society. And so they want to protect the data. They want to transform it themselves, value-added transformation into AI, and provision those services themselves. So we're seeing sovereign AI infrastructures being built in Japan, in Canada, in France, so many other regions. And so my expectation is that what is being experienced here in the United States, in the West, will surely be replicated around the world. And these AI generation factories are going to be in every industry, every company, every region. And so I think this last year we've seen generative AI really becoming a whole new application space, a whole new way of doing computing, a whole new industries being formed, and that's driving our growth.
Your next question comes from a line of Joe Moore from Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great, thank you. I wanted to follow up on the 40% of revenues coming from inference. That's a bigger number than I expected. Can you give us some sense of, where that number was, maybe the year before, how much you're seeing growth around LLMs from inference, And how are you measuring that? Is that, I assume it's in some cases the same GPUs used for training and inference. How solid is that measurement? Thank you.
I'll go backwards. The estimate is probably understated, and but we estimated it. And let me tell you why. Whenever a year ago, the recommender systems that people are, when you run the internet, the news, the videos, the music, the products that are being recommended to you, because as you know, the internet has trillions of, I don't know how many trillions, but trillions of things out there, and your phone is, 3 inches squared, and so the ability for them to fit all of that information down to something such a small real estate is through a system, an amazing system called recommender systems. These recommender systems used to be all based on CPU approaches, but the recent migration to deep learning and now generative AI has really put these recommender systems now directly into the path of GPU acceleration. It needs GPU acceleration for the embeddings. It needs GPU acceleration for the nearest neighbor search. It needs GPU acceleration for the re-ranking, and it needs GPU acceleration to generate the augmented information for you. So GPUs are in every single step of a recommender system now. And as you know, recommender system is the single largest software engine on the planet. Almost every major company in the world has to run these large recommender systems. Whenever you use ChatGPT as being inference, whenever you hear about Midjourney and just the number of things that they're generating for consumers, when you see Getty, the work that we do with Getty and Firefly from Adobe, these are all generative models. The list goes on, and none of these, as I mentioned, existed a year ago. 100% new.
Your next question comes from the line of Stacy Rasgon from Bernstein Research. Your line is open.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my question. Colette, I wanted to touch on your comment that you expected the next generation of product, I assume that meant Blackwell, to be supply constrained. Can you dig into that a little bit? What is the driver of that? Why does that get constrained as Hopper is easing up? And how long do you expect that to be constrained? Like, do you expect the next generation to be constrained like all the way through calendar 25? Like, when do those start to ease?
Yeah, the first thing is overall our supply is improving. Overall, our supply chain is just doing an incredible job for us. Everything from, of course, the wafers, the packaging, the memories, all of the power regulators, to transceivers and networking and cables and you name it. The list of components that we ship, as you know, people think that NVIDIA GPUs is like a chip, but the NVIDIA Hopper GPU has 35,000 parts. It weighs 70 pounds. These things are really complicated things. We've built, people call it an AI supercomputer for good reason. If you ever look in the back of the data center, the systems, the cabling system is mind-boggling. It is the most dense, complex cabling system for networking the world's ever seen. Our InfiniBand business grew 5x year over year. The supply chain is really doing fantastic supporting us. And so overall, the supply is improving. We expect the demand will continue to be stronger than our supply provides, and through the year. And we'll do our best. The cycle times are improving, and we're going to continue to do our best. However, whenever we have new products, as you know, it ramps from 0 to a very large number, and you can't do that overnight. Everything is ramped up. It doesn't step up. And so whenever we have a new generation of products, and right now we are ramping H200s, there's no way we can reasonably keep up on demand in the short term as we ramp. we're ramping Spectrum X. We're doing incredibly well with Spectrum X. It's our brand new product into the world of Ethernet. InfiniBand is the standard for AI dedicated systems. Ethernet with Spectrum X. Ethernet is just not a very good scale out system. But with Spectrum X, we've augmented, layered on top of Ethernet, fundamental new capabilities like adaptive routing, congestion control, noise isolation or traffic isolation, so that we can optimize Ethernet for AI. And so InfiniBand will be our AI dedicated infrastructure. Spectrum X will be our AI optimized networking, and that is ramping. And so we'll with all of new products, demand is greater than supply, and that's just kind of the nature of new products. And we work as fast as we can to catch up with the demand. But overall, net, our supply is increasing very nicely.
Your next question comes from the line of Matt Ramsey from TD Cowen. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, Jensen and Colette. Congrats on the results. I wanted to ask, I guess, a two-part question, and it comes at what Stacy was just getting at on your demand being significantly more than your supply, even though the supply is improving. And I guess the two sides of the question are, I guess, first for Colette, like, how are you guys thinking about allocation of product in terms of customer readiness to deploy and sort of monitoring if there's any kind of buildup of product that might not yet be turned on? And then I guess, Jensen, for you, I'd be really interested to hear you speak a bit about a thought that you and your company are putting into the allocation of your product across customers, many of which compete with each other, across industries to smaller startup companies, to things in the healthcare arena, to government. It's a very, very unique technology that you're enabling, and I'd be really interested to hear you speak a bit about how you think about, quote unquote, fairly allocating sort of for the good of your company, but also for the good of the industry. Thanks.
Let me first start with your question, thanks, about how we are working with our customers as they look into how they are building out their GPU instances and our allocation process. The folks that we work with, our customers that we work with, have been partners with us for many years as we have been assisting them both in what they set up in the cloud as well as what they are setting up internally. Many of these providers have multiple products going at one time to serve so many different needs across their end customers, but also what they need internally. So they are working in advance, of course, thinking about those new clusters that they will need. And our discussions with them continue, not only on our Hopper architecture, but helping them understand the next wave and getting their interest and getting their outlook for the demand that they want. So it's always a moving process in terms of what they will purchase, what is still being built, and what is in use for end customers. But the relationships that we've built and their understanding of the sophistication of the build has really helped us with that allocation and both helped us with our communications with them.
First, our CSPs have a very clear view of our product roadmap and transitions. And that transparency with our CSPs gives them the confidence of which products to place and where and when. And so they know the timing to the best of our ability, and they know quantities, and of course allocation. We allocate fairly. Do the best we can to allocate fairly, and to avoid allocating unnecessarily. as you mentioned earlier, why allocate something when a data center is not ready? Nothing is more difficult than to have anything sit around. And so allocate fairly and to avoid allocating unnecessarily. And the question that you asked about the end markets, you know that we have an excellent ecosystem with OEMs, ODMs, CSPs, and very importantly, end markets. What NVIDIA is really unique about is that we bring our customers, we bring our partners, CSPs and OEMs, we bring them customers. The biology companies, the healthcare companies, financial services companies, AI developers, the large language model developers, autonomous vehicle companies, robotics companies. There's just a giant suite of robotics companies that are emerging. They're warehouse robotics to surgical robotics to humanoid robotics, all kinds of really interesting robotics companies, agricultural robotics companies. All of these startups, large companies, healthcare, financial services, and auto and such, are working on NVIDIA's platform. We support them directly. And oftentimes, we can have a twofer by allocating to a CSP and bringing the customer to the CSP at the same time. And so this ecosystem, you're absolutely right that it's vibrant, but at the core of it, we want to allocate fairly, with avoiding waste and looking for opportunities to connect partners and end users. We're looking for those opportunities all the time.
Your next question comes from a line of Timothy Arcuri from UBS. Your line is open.
Thanks a lot. I wanted to ask about how you're converting backlog into revenue. Obviously, lead times for your products have come down quite a bit. Colette, you didn't talk about the inventory purchase commitments, but if I sort of add up your inventory plus the purchase commits and your prepaid supply, sort of the aggregate of your supply, it was actually down a touch. How should we read that? Is that just you saying that you don't need to make as much of a financial commitment to your suppliers because the lead times are lower, or is that maybe you're reaching some sort of steady state where you're closer to filling your order book and your backlog? Thanks.
Yeah, so let me highlight on those three different areas of how we look at our suppliers. You're correct, our inventory on hand, given our allocation that we're on, we're trying to, as things come into inventory, immediately work to ship them to our customers. I think our customer appreciates our ability to meet the schedules that we've looked for. The second piece of it is our purchase commitments. Our purchase commitments have many different components into it, components that we need for manufacturing, but also often we are procuring capacity that we may need. The lengths of that need for capacity or the length of the components are all different. Some of them may be for the next 2 quarters, but some of them may be for multiple years. I can say the same regarding our prepaids. Our prepaids are pre-designed to make sure that we have the reserved capacity that we need at several of our manufacturing suppliers as we look forward. So wouldn't read into anything regarding approximately about the same numbers as we are increasing our supply. All of them just have different lengths, as we have sometimes had to buy things in long lead times or things that needed capacity to be built for us.
Your next question comes from a line of Ben Wright from Melius Research. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks. Congratulations on the results. Colette, I wanted to talk about your comment regarding gross margins and that they should go back to the mid-70s. If you don't mind unpacking that. And also, is that due to the HBM content in the new products? And what do you think are the drivers of that comment? Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We highlighted in our opening remarks really about our Q4 results and our outlook for Q1. Both of those quarters are unique. Those 2 quarters are unique in their gross margin, as they include some benefits from favorable component costs in the supply chain, kind of across both our compute and networking, and also in several different stages of our manufacturing process. So looking forward, we have visibility into a mid-70s gross margin for the rest of the fiscal year, taking us back to where we were before this Q4 and Q1 peak that we've had here. So we're really looking at just a balance of our mix. Mix is always going to be our largest driver of what we will be shipping for the rest of the year, and those are really just the drivers.
Your next question comes from a line of CJ Muse from Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. Bigger picture question for you, Jensen. When you think about the million-X improvement of GPU compute over the last decade and expectations for similar improvements in the next, how do your customers think about the long-term usability of their NVIDIA investments that they're making today? Do today's training clusters become tomorrow's inference clusters? How do you see this playing out? Thank you.
Hey, CJ, thanks for the question. Yeah, that's the really cool part. If you look at the reason why we're able to improve performance so much, it's because we have two characteristics about our platform. One is that it's accelerated, and two, it's programmable. It's not brittle. NVIDIA is the only architecture that has gone from the very, very beginning, literally the very beginning when CNNs and Alex Kershevsky and Elliot Sutskever and Jeff Hinton first revealed AlexNet, all the way through RNNs to LSTMs to every RLs to deep learning RLs to transformers to every single version and every species that have come along, vision transformers, multimodality transformers, every single, and then now time sequence stuff, and every single variation, every single species of AI that has come along, we've been able to support it, optimize our stack for it, and deploy it into our installed base. This is really the great, amazing part. On the one hand, we can invent new architectures and new technologies like our tensor cores, like our transformer engine for tensor cores, improve new numerical formats and structures of processing like we've done with the different generations of tensor cores, meanwhile supporting the installed base at the same time. And so as a result, we take all of our new software algorithm inventions, all of the new inventions of models of the industry, and it runs on our installed base on the one hand. On the other hand, whenever we see something revolutionary, we can, like transformers, we can create something brand new, like the Hopper transformer engine, and implement it into future. And so we simultaneously have this ability to bring software to the installed base and keep making it better and better and better, so our customers' installed base is enriched over time with our new software. On the other hand, for new technologies, create revolutionary capabilities. Don't be surprised if in our future generation, all of a sudden, amazing breakthroughs in large language models were made possible. And that those breakthroughs, some of which will be in software because they run CUDA, will be made available to the installed base. And so we carry everybody with us on the one hand, we make giant breakthroughs on the other hand.
Your next question comes from a line of Aaron Rakers from Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. I wanted to ask about the China business. I know that in your prepared comments, you said that you started shipping some alternative solutions into China. You also pointed out that you expect that contribution to continue to be about a mid-single digit % of your total data center business. So I guess the question is what is the extent of products that you're shipping today into the China market? And why should we not expect that, maybe other alternative solutions come to the market and expand your breadth to participate in that opportunity again? Thank you.
At the core, remember, the U.S. government wants to limit the latest capabilities of NVIDIA's accelerated computing and AI to the Chinese market. And the U.S. government would like to see us be as successful in China as possible. Within those two constraints, within those two pillars, if you will, are the restrictions. And so we had to pause when the new restrictions came out. We immediately paused so that we understood what the restrictions are, reconfigured our products in a way that is not software hackable in any way. And that took some time. And so we reset our product offering to China, and now we're sampling to customers in China. And we're going to do our best to compete in that marketplace and succeed in that marketplace within the specifications of the restriction. And so that's it. This last quarter, our business significantly declined as we paused in the marketplace. We stopped shipping in the marketplace. We expect this quarter to be about the same. But after that, hopefully we can go compete for our business and do our best, and we'll see how it turns out.
Your next question comes from a line of Harsh Kumar from Piper Sandler. Your line is open.
Yeah, hey, Jensen, Colette, and NVIDIA team. First of all, congratulations on a stunning quarter and guide. I wanted to talk about a little bit about your software business, and it's pleasing to hear that it's over $1 billion. But I was hoping, Jensen or Colette, if you could just help us understand what the different parts and pieces are for the software business. In other words, just help us unpack it a little bit so we can get a better understanding of where that growth is coming from.
Let me take a step back and explain the fundamental reason why NVIDIA will be very successful in software. So first, as you know, accelerated computing really grew in the cloud. In the cloud service providers have really large engineering teams, and we work with them in a way that allows them to operate and manage their own business. And whenever there are any issues, we have large teams assigned to them, and their engineering teams are working directly with our engineering teams, and we enhance, we fix, we maintain, we patch the complicated stack of software that's involved in accelerated computing. As you know, accelerated computing is very different than general purpose computing. You're not starting from a program like C++, you compile it and things run on all your CPUs. The stacks of software necessary for every domain, from data processing, SQL versus SQL structured data versus all the images and text and PDF, which is unstructured, to classical machine learning, to computer vision, to speech, to large language models, all of recommender systems. All of these things require different software stacks. That's the reason why NVIDIA has hundreds of libraries. If you don't have software, you can't open new markets. If you don't have software, you can't open and enable new applications. Software is fundamentally necessary for accelerated computing. This is the fundamental difference between accelerated computing and general purpose computing that most people took a long time to understand. And now people understand that the software is really key. In the way that we work with CSPs, that's really easy. We have large teams that are working with their large teams. However, now that generative AI is enabling every enterprise and every enterprise software company to embrace accelerated computing. And when it is now essential to embrace accelerated computing because it is no longer possible, no longer likely anyhow, to sustain improved throughput through just general purpose computing. All of these enterprise software companies and enterprise companies don't have large engineering teams to be able to maintain and optimize their software stack to run across all of the world's clouds and private clouds and on-prem. So we are going to do the management, the optimization, the patching, the tuning, the install base optimization for all of their software stacks. And we containerize them into our stack. We call it NVIDIA AI Enterprise. And the way we go to market with it is
All right, guys, I'm just hopping on the mic here. Basically, the call is getting a little dry. Price action is getting slightly stale here. We're basically chopping in this wedge pattern on NVIDIA. You can see the SOX ETF has tried putting a little bit of a reversal intraday pattern in. NVIDIA is close to losing this neckline, but at the same time, it could also break out to the upside and retest the previous high. For the bears, basically double top seems to have been holding. For the bulls, obviously it's a nice gap up that is going to occur tomorrow as long as this price action holds. If we trigger this neckline and lose specifically this red line here, 720.22, we open ourselves up to a retrace to 700, and then basically breaking this neckline, you could have a downside move all the way back down to about 689. My base case was for NVIDIA to go up and then for NVIDIA to go down. I still think that's certainly a plausible scenario, but at the moment it's holding firm. I'm looking at SMCI, AVGO, MU. The whole semiconductor complex is strong. So if this price action holds, look for more bullish upside in the NASDAQ tech-heavy sector because semis are certainly the momentum trade at the moment. But again, we'll just see how by the end of the call how this holds. I am going to keep the stream going, but I'm going to mute my mic here for a brief moment. I'm going to stay on for another few more minutes to see if any more price action unfolds, but then I'm going to have to start recording my members daily analysis video as it is getting a little late here around 6 p.m. It's been quite a long day in the markets for us, even though it's been a really, really good day. So we'll certainly see NVIDIA is trying to get a little bit of a push up here. Really good resistance up in this point. But obviously we did trade all the way up to around the double top around 646.07. We did not make a new high. NVIDIA had every rhyme or reason to try to pierce this zone, and it did get rejected, at least for now. I do expect that if NVIDIA holds near these levels, it could probably retest that zone tomorrow. I would definitely mark your high pivot zone over here because it has seen a little bit of a sell-off from that zone. Again, the apex is approaching. I'm seeing SMCI trying to move up here. SOX is still technically above the neckline, ever so slightly. Any final questions in the chat, guys?
This new AI infrastructure will open up a whole new world of applications not possible today. We started the AI journey with the hyperscale cloud providers and consumer internet companies. And now every industry is on board, from automotive to healthcare to financial services.
I'm actually seeing the QQQ weakening, ever so slightly here. Qs are weakening. We'll see if that hits NVIDIA at all.
And a huge developer and partner ecosystem gives us the speed, scale, and reach.
All right, so here NVIDIA is actually trying to get a little bit of a mini breakout of this wedge pattern. You still could be developing a right shoulder, but it is trying to get a little push up here. So currently NVIDIA is up around just under 8%, about 7.75%. All right, so the conference call is actually over, guys. So the price action pulled off slightly from the highs, but it is trying to make a little bit of a move up. So the conference call is over now. We'll see if there's any sort of other reaction here. But on that note, thank you all for tuning in. It's going to be an interesting day tomorrow. Markets will be positive on the gap up. Just a word to the wise, caution, trading and chasing gap ups is very difficult. It takes gap ups on the long side, take a lot of the alpha out of the day. You know, you can catch a little bit of a momentum trade to the upside if it pushes higher, but the risk to reward when chasing gap ups is certainly not in favor for going long. You know, I would wait for a little bit of profit taking to occur. You likely will see some profit taking occur tomorrow, and then maybe you can catch a little bit of a dip. So if NVIDIA opens somewhere around these areas, I expect a small minor dip. Maybe we even retest about 710, 700. and then it should make a little bit of a bounce and continue higher off of this momentum. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can hold the majority of the gains moving into tomorrow. That's what I'm looking for these semiconductors. Do they hold these gains, or do investors just pull profits based off of forward expectations coming a little bit too high? Time will tell, but it's going to be a nice positive session when we open in the morning, jarring any political news over the futures market. So thank you all for tuning in. Congrats if you caught the amazing natural gas trades with us. We called out a few bangers yesterday, and it's been a tremendous day for members here at Trading Capital. We've banked quite a few different winners across the board. We took an over 20% win on KOLD, a monster win on Boyle, over 21%. Sorry, KOLD was 25.5%. We took profits on AR, Antero Resources. We had a big win on SMCI call, a few thousand there. So really good to see. And our hedge on NVIDIA worked out really well. Our $700 calls went deep in the money. And those should be super juicy tomorrow as we progress into the rest of the week. So tomorrow, there's a whole host of economic data. I'm going to save that for my members, but I will wrap up the stream here. But there's a whole host of economic data tomorrow that can also influence the yield market. Thank you all. Take care, and we'll see you on the charts a little bit later.